Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mupo and Friends. We are,
Emmanuela Messina,
and I'm Michelle Mupo.
and we're brought to you by Mupo TV.
And you could catch this show and many others at www.mupotv.com. And if you want to know more about our company or you're looking for a career, go to mupoentertainment.com and stay tuned because our show is really rocking. We have some really cool celebrities that tell us things that they've never told us before
This
on
is
this show.
so true. It's so true. Even the last one we did, he was like exclusively here on Mupo TV, and we like totally jumped for joy. 'Cause like, see, it's true. It really happens. But we
It
want to
is.
say it is, right? And it's not the first time I've experienced it myself, which is a really cool feeling to see that. But we do want to say thank you all to tuning into our show, where we love to bring you all the celebrities and the entrepreneurs you guys want to know about.
And don't forget, we have our own app on Android and iOS. So we're the next Hulu and Netflix coming up in the making. I'd say within the next 5 years, look out because Mupo Entertainment will be in every household streaming live, coming to you.
I can't wait to see that. And I can see the progress, and I just can't wait for it just to completely explode. And you can download it on your Android and your Apple phone. Just go to your store and download mupoentertainment.com.
And we also on
And
Roku and Fire Stick too.
that's right. And I'm gonna do something here. We
Oh,
have our magazine.
yes, we
We
do.
have our magazine. This is the first issue, guys. We're working on the second, and it's coming along really, really nicely. So make sure you guys get your subscription for that too.
And the second one's coming out. So I'm
Mhm.
excited about that. So, if you wanted to get your product in the hands of a celebrity, this is the magazine to do it. I'm telling you,
It's
it is.
true. It
And
is.
and I'm not even gonna say, did you have a Mupo awesome week? Because we're both
Oh,
sick right now. And
yeah.
we're gonna take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back with our special guest.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mupo and Friends. Our special guest today is an award-winning actor, director, and screenwriter. After being handpicked for the NSDF Summer Acting School featuring Sir Patrick Stewart, he went on to train at Drama Studio London. He's appeared in several iconic British TV shows, including Peaky Blinders, Doctor Who, and BBC's The War of the Worlds, as well as such a blockbuster as 2017's Justice League, 2021's Zack Snyder's Justice League, and I Am Vengeance Retaliation. His latest film, The Payday, was recently released both on the big screen and on Amazon Prime. Please welcome Sam Benjamin. Sam, how are you?
Hi, Sam.
Hi, and yeah, thank you for having me on. I'm feeling good. It's a lovely morning, and
Thank
yeah,
you.
looking forward to getting some chats in. And thanks for that lovely intro.
You seem
Welcome.
to rock. So you have major talent. I want you to like let's get into it. So tell us about the road from Double Cross to the Payday.
So Double Cross was a short film that Kyla Fry and I, two good friends and two, I guess you could say, British actors from working class towns, we really hit it off years ago in the London theatre scene, and we were just thinking, oh, why aren't we getting a chance to play these kind of characters? Why isn't there anything getting made in this country that's like this? So we made a short film called Double Cross with a director called Sam Bradford. We shot it in a day in a hotel room, and it did really well. But obviously, a short film, it's 8 minutes. People watched it, or at least some people did, and they liked it. And then we basically sat on our asses and did nothing for 7 years, and then we finally decided to make it into a feature film. No, it was 7 years of just, I guess, making that journey and struggling to get it made, or trying to convince other people to make the feature film version for us. And then eventually we all did more stuff, as you just reamed off. I've done some nice acting shows and movies, and we all kind of matured. And then this project with these characters called Jen and George kept calling us back. And eventually we just thought, right, let's just, come what may, let's make a feature film together however we can. And that's how the Payday came about. And yeah, we shot it 2021 last year, just on the back end of London's very strict lockdown. So that also spurred us on, because there was a bit of defiance to it as well, of going, you know, that I don't know where you guys were, but yeah, the British lockdown, I think, compared to most places in America, was very drastic, and it did make you kind of think. It made you analyze what you actually wanted to do, and it made you defiant to do it, or at least it did with us.
And what's compelling to you about heist films?
Heist films are compelling because they have they have that word that I just said, the defiance. There's an underdog determination to a heist film, and there's also a courage and a cheekiness to it, which I also really like. I love characters who go outside the rules, and I think in life there's times when you do have to go outside the rules, and the rules could be just what's expected of you, or what your family have deemed to be right, or what society says is the norm. So I like that element of just taking a big risk with the willingness to fail. So I think that's a really good, an attractive thing about the heist movie.
And you brought a little bit of British flair to it. Can you tell us a little bit about that British flair that you brought into it?
You talking about me, or talking about the film in general?
The crime caper tropes. So
the crime caper tropes. Yeah, I mean, I think I don't think as much recently in terms of like the last 20, 30 years, but I think if you go back longer to like the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and in movies, I think us Brits actually did do a fair few crime capers, or even just those caper movies with a big plan and a group of people that try and pull it off. So I think even from like war films, just, you know, An Escape or The Italian Job. And so I think the heist movie is within the British mentality anyway, especially because in Britain we still have the kind of elements of a class system, which makes it even more, for those of us who are on a lower rung of the class that they're born into, there's even more of a desire to overthrow who's above you. So I think, and also I'd like to think there's a lot of cheeky British comedy in the Payday, which kind of comes out of who Kyla and I and Sam Bradford, the director, are anyway. And I think we wanted to bring genuine danger, but also some British sensibility. And we were thinking about the American audience, because we did actually think, you know, especially if an American who's maybe watched Ocean's 11 and Ocean's 8 and Set It Off or Out of Sight, or, you know, Now You See Me, or these kind of movies, and then, you know, they might, oh, this is like a cheeky little British version of these movies.
And did you pattern George after anyone in particular?
George was, I'm trying to be careful of spoilers, but essentially George is a bit of a duplicitous character. He's a bit of a man of mystery. So I based him on, there's a version of George that is very much tapping into who I am, or who the kind of a sensibility from my hometown of Birkenhead near Liverpool. And then there's also a more suave version of George, which I guess I pulled from the classic suave people, that like little James Bond, and also because he's not like a super spy or anything like that, a little bit of Ethan Hunt from Mission Impossible, perhaps, in the sense that not that Ethan Hunt isn't a super spy or incredible, but I think that rather than like a pristine, flawless hero, the way Ethan Hunt and often Tom Cruise in an action film will not necessarily the best fighter or strategist in the room, but he's just too determined to be stopped and will fall on his arse. So a little bit of that, and the big influence, because he's actually named after George Clooney, and because one of the big influences on the movie was Out of Sight with George Clooney and Jennifer Lopez from 1998. So the two characters of Jen and George, we kind of gave a nod to Jennifer Lopez and George Clooney. So
Nice.
that's like the spirit of, he plays a bank robber in Out of Sight, and he very much has that both suaveness that Clooney has, but also an element of blue collar desperation as well.
And who are Archie and Sarah, the couple Payday is dedicated to?
You know what? That they are Sam Bradford, the director's dedications, which I didn't actually know about till I actually saw the screening. But you'd have to ask him about, how that came about.
And in doing some action scenes, have you ever had any mishaps?
Yes. I mean, nothing major, but I remember when I did I Am Vengeance Retaliation, which is on Netflix still, I think. And I was doing a fight scene with a guy called Joe Egan, and Joe Egan is apparently he was one of Mike Tyson's sparring partners back in the day. And apparently he was the only guy who Mike Tyson couldn't knock out. So they say. So I was going toe to toe with him. And in the fight, because of what happened earlier in the film, my character was only wearing boxer shorts. So the choreograph in the fight, and the main element of it was that I go and grab his gun, and then he, in response, like knees me in the ribs and then throws me across the room. So we're rehearsing it, and he planning the knee in the ribs. And then as we're doing it, the stunt coordinator goes, "Oh, don't worry, Sam, as well, like, because we'll pad you up for that, knee contact." And then I was like, "Well, you can't, because I'm topless in the scene." And he was like, "Oh, well, we'll just tell Joe to go easy." And then I was like, "Okay." And then the more we were rehearsing it, this Joe guy, he's like, I mean, in British money, he was like probably about 18 stone. So I don't know, about 250 pounds, and like just a brick. And he, as we were rehearsing it more and more, he was getting more and more intense and more like into it. And I could tell that when it came down to it, he was going to proper give me something. So, and then so lo and behold, they said action. And I went in, grabbed the gun, and then he just kneed me in the ribs, like legitimately, full force.
Boy. Ouch.
And I was like, it was just a shock. It was so like instant. I didn't even have time to react, but I was like, oh God. And then in my head, I was thinking, all I thought was, maybe my ribs are broken, I don't know. And then, but I just thought, stay in the scene. And then so he grabbed me and threw me off. And then they said, cut. And then straight away, the stunt coordinator ran to me and was like, "Sam, are you okay?" And then I was like, I just said to him quietly, I was like, I am. Obviously, it did hurt. I was like, I am, but please tell me we don't have to do that too many times. and then the director, not hearing this, obviously looking at his monitor, just shouted, "We got it in one." And then I was like, wow. Yes.
Thank God, right?
So that was one of those too realistic moments, but it was fun in hindsight.
Now, having worked on iconic titles like Doctor Who and Justice League, are there any other legends that you'd like to be a part of?
Yeah, I want to. I mean, any Brit would love to be James Bond, obviously, but I think
it's funny that you say that, because I'm kind of intuitive and I could see you becoming the next James Bond, but in today's age.
Well, thank you.
I can see that. Yeah.
Thank you. And funnily enough, Daniel Craig is actually from my hometown as well. which is an
Nice.
unusual coincidence. No, obviously the Bond thing. Anytime a Brit puts on a suit and does a bit of spy stuff, people, liken it to that. But I would say, in terms of, I did a small, very, 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 very small part in Justice League, but I would love to play. I would love to play a DC character, one of the iconic ones, and I would also. Mission Impossible is one of my favorite franchises as well, so they'd be two examples. So one of those two.
Awesome. And we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with our special guest.
Welcome back to Mupo and Friends with Sam Benjamin. So what led you to becoming a fan of comics?
Well, let's comics. So I guess it was two things. On the one hand, I would. So my mum was a hairdresser, and if there was a moment when I was just hanging out in my mum's hair salon, like bored, there was a newsagent or a convenience store, maybe what you guys call them, like a sweet shop that sells newspapers, and my mum used to give me, some money and send me next door to buy a comic, pick a comic, and then just read that and shut up. And then so I used to go, and then I always I seem to remember there was some kind of Batman story that was going on that really captivated me. But Batman was always like my guy. And then meanwhile, on a Saturday night, I'd be staying at my dad's flat, and he would always have like comic books down the side of the toilet for bathroom reading. And he always had, I guess you could say he always had a range of the dark, brooding characters. So he'd always you'd be seeing, Batman, Wolverine, Daredevil, and Judge Dredd.
Which one was your favorite?
My favorite was always Batman, because then the other way in was on a Saturday morning, me and my dad used to watch the Batman animated series together,
yes.
which was one of the big and then the when I finally, obviously I was way too young for the rating of it at the time, but I remember my auntie got me the videos of the Michael Keaton Batmans, so that which I think was a lot of people's way, and even though that was, I was watching them later on from when they were out, but so Batman was like my gateway drug to comics, and then I had a phase when I was, I guess, 12-ish, when I just kind of fell down the rabbit hole, and me and my a couple of friends would go into Liverpool, go to Forbidden Planet or another comic shop called Worlds Apart, and it was just hours going through. I always like going through the back issues because A, they were cheaper, and B, you could, like, I don't know, I felt like it was easier to find storylines that you could get. I like buying like 4 or 5 that had a storyline, within one, and then start reading. So yeah, I guess my favorites are Batman, obviously Spider-Man. Everyone loves Spider-Man. X-Men, Wolverine, and then Daredevil, and a bit of Judge Dredd, and then some Preacher. I bought loads of those back issues.
Nice.
So yeah, that's what got me into it.
What is the last thing you did that was out of your comfort zone?
I feel like I'm doing a lot of things that are out of my comfort zone at the moment. I got a green card last year and came to LA. That was out of my comfort zone. And yeah, it feels like in life it's when you step out of your comfort zone that new things start to happen, and you get rewarded for taking risks, I think. So I guess, yeah, moving across the pond and getting a green card and putting myself about a bit, as we say in England, in the LA like movie scene was very much out of my comfort zone, and kind of still is, you know, going out and about and just you
Have
know,
you been to New York?
huh?
Have you been to New York yet?
You know what? I have never been to New York, and I really want to go to New York. I was actually saying that the other day, and I hear a lot of. I was joking around with an Uber driver the other day because she was from New York, and I was saying, she was asking me. We got into it. We were talking about dating, and I said when I first landed in LA, I was on a night out, and then this older British guy who's been here for a while, he pulled me aside and gave me a pep talk and said, listen, he's like, are you going to be dating American women? And I said, well, yeah. And then he goes, well, let me give you a bit of advice. He goes, stick to the East Coast. All right. Stick to the East Coast. New
See?
York, yes. You know, Chicago, yes. And he was like, don't be messing with those West Coast girls. I just thought it was hilarious.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, if you come on the East Coast, I'll definitely show you around.
All right. It's a deal.
Maybe we'll get Mickey to fly in and we'll all do something.
Cool.
Yeah. But New York, Nashville, those are the places you want to go to. LA
Yeah.
is kind of laid back. So they're very laid back over there. They're very, you know, it's one of those things. Now, in both training under and working with great talent, were you ever starstruck?
Yes, I think the first, yeah, definitely. So that I'm just trying to think of when were the starstruck moments, but definitely when I was on Justice League and I got introduced to Zack Snyder.
Oh yeah, I would have been too.
That was a big moment, especially because it was like it was like a film, because I was on the set for like the morning, and there was a lot of organizing and planning and costuming and sorting all that out. And then I was just looking around thinking, oh, is Zach just going to direct from his megaphone somewhere? I don't know. And then I think it was after lunch. There was like a massive sea of extras. And then the first AD was like, where's Sam Benjamin? And then I was like, yeah, I'm here. And he's like, follow me. And then he weaved me through this crowd. And then it was like the crowd parted. And then Snyder was like standing there in action pose with his waistcoat and his, you know, awesome like burgundy shoes, and he was just waiting for me. And then he stuck his hand out and he was like, "Oh, Sam, you know, thanks for coming down, you know, whatever." And I was like, "Oh shit!" And then what other? I mean, when I was on Iron Vengeance, I was working with Vinnie Jones, who's quite notorious in England as both a footballer and, you know, Guy Ritchie gangster actor, as well as acting. I spent a lot of the time acting opposite WWE's Bad News Barrett or Stu Bennett. So that again was, I decided to hide.
He's amazing.
My wrestling. Huh?
He's amazing.
He is. Well, I decided to hide my wrestling fandom when I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna not tell anyone that I'm a big wrestling fan and I totally know who Stu Bennett is and all that kind of thing. And then I think it was about 2 weeks into because we were hanging out loads, Stu and I, because we were in loads of scenes together. And then I think it was about 2 weeks into it, we were having lunch with the cast, and then I can't remember what it was, but I started talking about wrestling and kind of letting it slip that I knew stuff in terms of when Stu was telling stories about certain older wrestlers. And then eventually Stu cottoned on and he goes, wait a minute. He's like, are you a wrestling fan? And I go, yeah. And he goes, wait, and you know this, my, what I've done. And I was like, yeah. And then he goes, you could have told me this. He's like, I could have done with the boost, like early on in the shoot. Why didn't you, got all these people fanboying over Vinnie Jones, and here's me thinking nobody knows who I am. What I've done doesn't matter at all. And then, one of the fellow lead actors, turns out he's a big fan, and so he was like giving me loads of stick for it, and I was like, all right Stu, yeah, no, I am a fan though, so you're doing great.
That's good. And what inspired you to create your award-winning web series The Few?
that was similar to the Payday in a way. It was necessity was the mother of invention, in the sense that it's that actor desire to tell a story or play a certain type of character. And as you know, I grew up on comic books, and Sam Bradford, the director of that, is also the director of The Payday. He's a big comic book guy. He's got a massive Joker tattoo on his arm, actually. And we just thought at the time there wasn't really any British superhero content, and we thought, and the web series scene was building, and obviously loads of technology was a lot cheaper than it was, and we just thought, hey, could we do like a very, very short series, totally guerrilla, low budget, and make a sci-fi superhero story that was set in London? And that was basically the premise. And then I started writing it, and then we gathered talented actors who we knew, and then we just went out and shot it guerrilla style in London, and won some awards. Got like the trailer got premiered at Comic-Con in London, and it was a great experience. And kind of, sad in a way is we tried to crowdfund a second series, but on a bigger budget with longer episodes, and we didn't quite get the money, so we couldn't make it. But we had Kevin Conroy signed on to play one of the characters in it. So I mean, that was back in 2017. So it's like what could have been if we would have got the money, and I could have had a moment opposite Conroy, the Batman himself.
It's amazing. Now we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to be right back.
Everyone, and we are back with the amazing actor Sam Benjamin. Now, Sam, does writing the character you're going to play make it more difficult to edit the script?
That's a really, really good question. I would say no, not for me. I've never really had trouble editing my scripts generally, because I'm very much, I think, my acting training informs my writing a lot, and I think I'm pretty good at like taking ideas and throwing out what was originally there. And also I'm very much, if in doubt, I like to just get to things quicker, keep it moving. I mean, maybe if there's a really tasty line that I've crafted and I really want to drop that line, it can be annoying if someone's saying, the director's like, do we need that line? But sometimes I'm like, sometimes they always say, do they say, kill your darlings? Is that a phrase? Or it's something like that, where if you find yourself really loving a line in your script and you're like, oh, that's such a cool moment, it's probably too much and needs to be cut. And then, so there's always that. But I always remember, we're talking about Batman and Michael Keaton. I remember I watched an interview with the screenwriter, or one of the screenwriters working on Batman Returns, and he said Michael Keaton had in his contract, he had like a pass on the script, or he could give his thoughts. So Keaton came in and gave him the script, the draft of the script, annotated, and he said he's the only actor I've ever met who literally cut 2/3 of his lines. And he just had like black mark, and it was like, I had paragraphs that he turned into a sentence. I had, one-liners that he just got rid of and wrote, do this with a look. And he was like, that's not, Batman doesn't need to say that. He doesn't need to say that. He doesn't need to say that. I can do that with a look. His presence is enough for that bit. I can do this, and he said it turns out he was right. So I always remember that as well. It's not just about dialogue; it's about moments as well.
It's incredible. And have you ever been interested in screenwriting, or is this something that eventually you evolved into as you got into the business?
Yeah, the screenwriting happened. I've been a professional screenwriter since probably about, you could say, 2011, maybe 2012. I graduated from drama school as an actor in 2009, so it kind of followed it, and I guess it came out of the desire to play certain characters initially. And I think in hindsight, I've always been a bit of a writer ever since I was a kid. I was always good at written subjects. I was good at writing essays, and taking my lack of knowledge and spinning it into, an essay that they might think I know more than I actually do. And yeah, now it's the acting and the writing inform each other. I'm always an actor first. So in my dream vision would be to be, doing great roles in great movies with great filmmakers, and then maybe every 2 or 3 having a project that I'm really passionate about that I've written, and being able to parlay what I've done or people I've worked with on the other movies and say, hey, how about this movie? It's set in the world of professional wrestling, or it's a gritty crime drama in Liverpool, and we're going to shoot it on this budget, kind of like what Ben Affleck or Clint Eastwood or those kind of people have done when they write and perhaps direct something in between.
Right. And could you do an impression or two for us? Because I heard you do great impressions.
Who said that? Oh, who do you want?
Just pick your favorite.
One of the ones I do all the time on set is I'll always do a Jim Carrey, which, let me think of, what's your favorite Jim Carrey film?
The Mask.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me think of what.
Or you know what? You can do when he was the Joker in Batman, when he was the Riddler.
Oh, the Riddler.
Yeah.
What's a line from the Riddler was in Batman? I always remember the best line in that is when he's like, I said it the other day, is when he's like blowing up the Batcave, and he's like, is that what he says? Joygasm.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, what I always do is I wind people up and do that head tilt. If someone gives you some bad news, and you can just go, "Alrighty then." Okay. Here now, bye.
Oh my God, that's funny. That was good. That was so good. And can you tell, what do you like to do on your downtime?
On my downtime, I like to watch professional wrestling. I like to, and I haven't done it in a while. I like to go see some live wrestling. That's one of my things. I really like, I'm a gym and yoga guy, so that's a really good, mind switch off, and I enjoy that. And I'm partial to a good night on the dance floor, which I feel is very Liverpool of me. We're a very musical bunch, and we love going out for a drink and a dance, and getting dressed up and letting loose.
Nice. And can you tell us about your upcoming projects?
Yes. So I've just finished filming well, I didn't film it, but there's a movie called Bad Tenant that is written by me. It's a psychological thriller. Just got filmed in Florida. I play a character in it called Preston Black, who's a British rock star. So that was a lot of fun. And then, yeah, we've got The Payday out, so I'm still doing, obviously, promotion for that. And then with Sam Bradford and Kyla Fry from The Payday, we're brewing some new ideas for our next film. And yeah, I've done a couple of auditions, and and then Screw Job is the name of my short film that I directed. It's about a single mom, female pro wrestler in the British independent scene. And that's nearly finished, and I'm going to be sending that to festivals. And I've got an idea for a feature film version of that I'd love to do.
Nice. Well, we're going to have to talk about that. And we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with the conclusion of our interview with the amazing Sam Benjamin.
Well, welcome back to Mupo and Friends with Sam Benjamin. And before we wrap things up, we have one last question. If you were to write a movie about your life, what would the title be? And who would you cast as yourself other than yourself?
I like the way you got that in there. I know actors are just going to say themselves. Oh, that's a really good. I guess my answer to that would depend on, because the way my brain works is that if I was doing a movie about my life, I'd want to know what genre we're turning my life into. So are we going to tell it like a coming of age British working class Billy Elliot style story, or are we going to tell it like a heightened a heightened comedy or whatever? But let me just think, what would it be called, and who would be me? It's hard because a lot of the people I'd want to play me are older now. I'd love because the comedy version, I'd love Jim Carrey to play me. And then, but the more if we're going more serious, I'd want Tom, Mr. Cruise, to take the reins and dust off his English accent and get on board with that. I don't know what it'd be called though. That's a hard one. What would we call it? We're gonna call it no, I don't know what it's called. Untitled Sam Benjamin movie in development is what it's called.
There you go. That's amazing. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure visiting with you, and look for Sam Benjamin in both Justice League films on HBO Max and Amazon Prime, I Am Vengeance, Retaliation on Tubi TV, Double Cross on Amazon Prime, and The Payday at select AMC theaters on the East Coast, and now streaming on Amazon Prime. You can also follow, like, and subscribe to Sam on Twitter at Sam Benjamin Now, on Instagram at Sam Benjamin Now, on YouTube under Sam Benjamin, and at his website, sambenjamin.com.
And can I also add to that, if you go to paydaymovie.com, all the links to all the your preferred platform, Apple, Amazon, Vudu, whatever, Google Play. It's all
right on. And as always, thank you for tuning in to Mupo and Friends, courtesy of Mupo TV. And you can catch this show and many others at www.mupotv.com. That's www.mupotv.com. And you can also catch us on Roku, Fire Stick, and make sure you download our app on Android and iOS. And don't forget, we still have the Mupo magazine coming out, and the second issue will be coming out. It's quarterly magazine. You can purchase it at mupoentertainment.com right in the store.
And this is Emanuela Messina with our host, Michelle Mupo. And until next time,
have a Mupo awesome week.